Pappenfus.
Pappenfus. Okay, because like when you said it again, I was like, oh, did I screw up his name? Am I gonna have to redo that introduction? But it sounded okay, right?
It'll work. I've heard it butchered way.
Way worse than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The best was going to our wrestling matches in high school when I was going to a different school, and they'd announce the wrestlers coming up, and I'd wait. They'd say Will, and I'd just sit there and wait and see how long it took them to say it.
Sure.
And I've heard, it was hilarious.
Oh.
Welcome to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast, your source for information on hunting, fishing, and all of your outdoor passions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast. My name is Mike Anderson, here with my co-host, Ashley Sorensen. Ashley, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mike?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. I mean, I'd be better if I was in a boat, but, I say that quite a bit because I always want to be in a boat or in a stand. But, hey, we got a really cool guest with us today. Happened very recently. We've got Will Pappenfus with us today, who just, I believe, set a lake record on a walleye bag in a tournament with averaging nearly 30 inches per fish. So
Unreal.
I heard this story and I was like, oh man, we gotta get Will on the line. We gotta hear about this. So Will, how you doing today?
Good. How about you guys?
Oh, doing wonderful.
Great.
So yeah, first of all, congratulations on your tournament win at Lake of the Woods. And yeah, just absolutely fantastic. So can for those people that haven't heard about you, know about you, can you just give us a little brief introduction?
Yeah. Like you said, my name is Will Pappenfus. I'm originally from central Minnesota, and I moved up to Bemidji back in 2014 when I graduated high school, and graduated there after 4.5 years. Then I moved to Grand Rapids and worked at Thousand Lakes Sporting Goods for a year, and then moved back to Bemidji a year after that. And we've been working at Northwoods Bait and Tackle since then, and guiding and fishing tournaments on the side.
How do you like the Bemidji area?
I like it a lot. There's endless water here to fish, so a lot of big walleyes, a lot of big panfish. There's deer around if you want to do that too, but I usually fish most of the time.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's more lakes than you can shake a stick at out there.
And it's closer, you have Lake of the Woods not too far away. Leech is close, Cass, Bemidji, Winnie. Everything's red. Everything's right within the 2-hour radius. So.
I'm going to Cass this weekend.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was telling her
Yeah, he's
horror
been
stories about potentially getting bit by 50-inch muskies out there. And
That are as tall as me. Or as long as me.
how did you first get into like tournament fishing?
My dad, he fished fishing league every week when I was growing up, and we did this pike tournament every year in August on Platte and Sullivan Lakes down just north of Piers and kind of by Brainerd. And it was the one event every year I just would look forward to every summer before going to school, was fishing that tournament. And that tournament itself, even just a pike tournament, definitely got my itch into it, and I wanted to do more since then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just something about tournament fishing it's really exciting. To be honest, like I haven't done any fishing tournaments yet, but I talk a lot with my brother who just started in a local fishing league, and he's like, dude, you got to just try it out. Just do it once, see what it's like. Just, doing the whole pre-fishing process and, like all the boats taking off and just, a little bit more of a wager on it instead of just, betting your buddies, whoever can catch the biggest fish. But just that whole dynamic it's super fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun to get out there. It's fun to have competition, and it's just something about it every morning. You're just sitting there with jitters, and it doesn't matter what tournament it is, even if it's a small one, if it's a Tuesday night league night or a NWT tournament, it's always the same feeling every time.
Mm-hmm.
So then you also do guide. So do you enjoy like tournament fishing more or being a guide?
They both have their days. It just kind of depends on if the fish are cooperating. That's usually the number one factor. But you try to make the best of it and make sure everybody has fun. And if you're not having fun, then why are you doing it?
Absolutely. So, how long have you been on the NWT now?
It's my rookie year, so I'm actually leaving for the 4th event on Sunday to Sault Ste. Marie.
Ooh, nice. How's the rookie year been going?
I can't complain too much. I've cashed in 2 out of the 3 events, and I just missed by a pound cashing on the 3rd one. So I'm sitting in 7th for Angler of the Year, so I can't complain too much. So
yeah, especially for a rookie season to be sitting in 7th right now, that's a pretty impressive feat.
Yeah, my goal is just to try to make top 40 to make it to Devil's Lake for the championship, and I think we're on pace for that. So I just have to finish strong here at the Sioux, and then we can go to Devils and hopefully have some fun. So
okay, so I've never been to that fishery before. What's the strategy for that one?
Great question. I haven't been there either. I actually haven't been to any of the events that they've had this year, so everything's been new to me. But I love fishing new water and trying to figure it out, and just bringing what I know to those bodies of water and trying to figure it out. And it just makes you that much better of an angler when you try and do that, other than just fishing the same stuff over and over again. But pushing yourself to fish new water, and you take what you learn there and apply it to different bodies of water that's up the same or the same time of year. It just helps you grow as an angler and helps you along the way.
Yeah, that's a really good point you make. I mean, it's super easy to just get kind of stuck in a rut with your fishing tactics. You go to the same lake, you try the same tactics, and sometimes it works out, sometimes you do great, sometimes you don't. That's just kind of fishing in general. But having the ability to adapt and try different things, and when it's not working, be able to make that move, switch to that different tactic, it can prove to be really valuable in cashing checks or filling the live well.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be a versatile angler, and you got to be able to adapt. And even if you find something pre-fishing, I know every time I've had something figured out, it's always changed for tournament days. So just gotta find multiple things that they're biting on. So if one day they're not biting on that, they're biting on the other. So
absolutely. What are your favorite tactics for walleye fishing? What's your go-to?
I like jigging a lot, whether it's like just throwing a regular jig or glide bait, stuff like that. Throw a lot of bobbers here and there. Other than that, just anything I can cast with. I troll once in a while if I have to, but I'd rather just cast anything with a spinning rod.
Makes sense. That seems to be a pretty common theme nowadays. You think about original walleye fishing, a lot of it was just, pulling a spinner or a Lindy rig or a crankbait and, just kind of waiting and really that kind of finesse game. But now it's more, like let's use forward facing sonar and let's almost hunt the fish down. So it's crazy how things have changed in even the past few years. So for those of you that aren't watching on video, we had some minor technical difficulties. We had a phone that got too hot, and now we got a new background here. So yes, let's hope we don't have any more of those technical difficulties, and we can just drop right back in. Wow, where were we at?
Great question.
Well, I think we should talk about that tournament of like what style of fishing you were doing then.
Oh yeah, exactly. You're fishing Lake of the Woods. You're thinking of 3 things. You're either pulling lead core crankbaits, or you're pulling spinners, or you're jigging. So those are the main 3 things guys are doing out there. And just the way we've been fishing lately, the past couple of years, I just want to try and actually just cast at the big ones. Just try and target big fish specifically instead of trying to pull lead. Just hoping that you can get that bait in front of the fish's face. So we tried to do it, and it was super windy a couple times we tried it. We could make it work. But the night before the tournament, I told my partner, I said, if it comes down to it, it's going to have to be one of us maybe just fishing. and the other one trying to maybe pick one off from the back or standing and just waiting to, try and hit it with a different bait if it didn't bite. And that's kind of what it came down to, is 4 to 5 foot rollers out there. And it was really tough to stay on them, but you had 1 to 2 casts max at a fish before you blew off of it. So if you didn't hit that fish right on, you could try and chase them down, but trying to go through 4 to 5 footers with the trolling motor is not very effective. But we just had to make sure we were spot on with the cast each time. And then for an hour and a half, we caught 6 over. We had all over 28, had a 25, and then I lost 5 giants myself. So it was
wow.
catch one, lose one, catch one, lose one, and then. But that was our bag, and I was like, well, we could almost had another winning bag if we'd have got the ones we lost. So it was kind of just crazy hour and a half.
Yeah, that's just absolutely unreal. So
you said that was from like 11 a.m. to like 12:30.
Yep.
Kind of crazy.
It's just every time you explain this a little bit more, my mind just becomes a little bit more blown, So it's like, okay, yeah, he caught all these fish. That's super cool. He caught it on a day with 4 to 5 foot rollers. That makes it even harder. And to have potential bites that were just as big as the ones that you actually caught is just insane. All in like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster of a morning. I mean, you start out, throw a couple 22s on or whatever, and a 19. It's like, okay, whatever. These ain't gonna work or whatever. So all of a sudden you lose 2 big ones in back-to-back casts, and one I think was probably pushing 32, maybe bigger.
Oh wow!
And lost that one. Hooked into another good one. Got it halfway up and it fell off. And I was usually I would start to spin out, or have to take a 10-minute because you're falling apart. But it just something in my head was like, no, we got it, we're good, and it just didn't freak out nothing. I just went right back to casting, and the next one I threw at was 31, and we netted it, got it in. I said, all right, here we go. We turned around, marked another one, and I tried to throw at it, and I got tangled. My boss, who's my partner, came up, threw right at it, got a 30 1/4, which happened to be his first 30 that he's ever caught, and it was awesome. In a tournament. That was cool.
That's very cool.
Back-to-back Casio, a 30 and a 31, and we're like, okay, we can do this. And then they shut the leaderboard off at noon, and we had got a 25 to upgrade our 22s. And then they shut the leaderboard off, and then right after that, within the next 20 minutes, I caught a 28, a 29, and another 30, and lost 2 other big ones.
Yeah, wow. That almost doesn't even seem like real life.
Yeah, it was like if I lost it, I was like, oh, whatever, quick grab another one, throw out the next one, whoop, got him. It was just like bang, 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 and then we sat there and kind of looked at what we had, and I pulled the trolling motor up, and we just started floating, and we each ate half a sandwich and a Gatorade and just kind of sat there. Did that really just happen? Like,
is this real life?
Someone pinched me. Yeah.
We ended up getting a half-pound deducted off to 31 because we made a mistake on the so we bring one in for a big fish to weigh, and I put the 31 in the live well, and we said you have to have a tag, so I tagged it and said that we were gonna tag it, but we had the video it going into the live well, and I guess we didn't have it going into the live well on video because we were like, oh my god, we just stuck a 31, and that didn't even occur to us and to look at the rules again. But that just kind of was our bonehead mistake, but we still had enough to get it done though.
Wow.
So.
Mm-hmm. What did second place end up being?
I think they had 143 inches, I want to say.
Okay, and you were at what, like 147 or something like that?
Just under, 147.75 after the half inch got knocked off.
Huh. That's truly incredible. I mean, it just speaks to that fishery too. I mean, like Lake of the Woods is pretty special once you figure it out. So what sort of areas were you targeting to find these fish? Were you in like deep flats, or were you like looking for structure?
Yeah, we were just out in the mud. It's just kind of the part of the migration run, I should say, where they start pulling off the reefs and start pulling in the mud and start making their way, around the lake. And they kind of just sit out in the mud till it starts getting to cool again, and they'll start sliding back up again. So they're just out schooling up in the mud, and they weren't super schooled up. There's one every maybe 50 yards, or you'd see two every 50 yards, or then you go another 100 yards and you'd see a couple more. And I think we only drifted maybe 3/4 of a mile or a mile, I think I had on my graph in those couple hours, and then just went right back to shore at like 12:30. Figured we had enough and didn't want to educate any more fish on what we were doing. And
Love it. So you're seeing these fish like singular for the most part, or were you finding them in pods?
they're mostly singles. A lot of them were laying in the mud that day, and I think that's kind of why the crankbait didn't really go off till the afternoon when they started to suspend a little bit more off bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all kind of just not very aggressive. They're just either laying in the mud like a muskie would in the weeds, or you'd see a couple start to pop up suspended in the bait pods. But it seemed that I could keep the suspended ones hooked a little bit better because I could get a better hookup. But the ones on the bottom, they just weren't really moving. They're just almost just laying there, and I'd have to hit them and get them to chase it. And I couldn't get a good enough hook set with the wind to keep most of them pinned. But we went through enough of them to get 5. So
That's very cool. So, is your lure selection top secret, or can you dive into that a little bit?
yeah, I mean, it's nothing super crazy. Just either we're just throwing jig with live bait on it, whether it was a shiner, a crawler, or a leash. Every fish was different. We threw a couple bobbers here and there. We threw some glide baits around. We tried the plastics a little bit, and it kind of every fish was different. So we had a variety of rods laying there, almost like we were just a bunch of bass guys out trying to, either you go from a frog to a jig, or you go to a, if you want to throw a wacky worm or a chatterbait or a crankbait. We just had everything rigged up, and if they didn't eat one thing, we dropped the other thing right back on them, and you could usually get something to go on it. So.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And were you seeing, so you're seeing the most success on just like live bait then?
Not necessarily. It seemed like right away in the morning, it was the couple we got were more on live bait, but once a happy hour hit around a little after 11, it seemed they'd eat anything almost. So.
Okay. Very cool. So question for you on basically just like this style of fishing. I want to go out and specifically target like big fish versus trying to get a numbers quantity. So what's your sort of thought process while you're, picking out areas or figuring out a strategy on how to do that?
Number one would be going where big fish live. There's certain lakes that grow them better than others. So trying to figure that out by either looking at surveys or, word of mouth, or just catching them in general. And then just going out. I like targeting weeds a lot just because they seem to be untapped. And most guys, if you're fishing walleyes, they're going to go out to mid-lake structure or stuff like that. And I like fishing weeds a lot more because they seem to be more aggressive and they're feeding more of the time, and they don't get as touched by people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense.
I'm thinking you have to sign up for a tournament and maybe you'll catch a 30.
Yeah, so that's what it takes. I can only get it done when it's crunch time.
It's a tournament.
Hey, maybe. You never know.
It's worth a try.
Yeah, I guess I just got to stay out of the tournaments Will's in, though, because then he just embarrassed me. Oh, love it. Hey, so since I got you on the line, you're a Northland guy, I want to talk a little bit about some eye candy. And I'm not talking the pretty girl walking down the street. I'm talking the new Northland plastics. What's your experience with it so far and your thoughts?
I really like the minnow myself. I used it a lot in South Dakota and Francis Case for the NWT down there. That was probably my second go-to bait that I used in that tournament. And then the paddle shad is really good around here, like in the northern Minnesota, at least thrown in the weeds, which is really nice because you almost get that same super soft feel, but you have the durability with it too. So you don't have to go through, a pack of baits for a couple fish. It's not like just 1 to 2 fish per bait. You can get multiple fish on the same bait before it gets ripped apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I had my first experience with the eye candy last week, and I can't remember the exact name. It's like kind of the minnow profile, but it doesn't have like the paddle tail. It's got more of like it kind of just comes to a point at the end. It was like a 4-inch one, and my thought process was I want to put it on a Berkeley snap jig, and I want to get out to like. I've got this shelf at my home lake where we got a cabin, and it goes from like 12 foot of water and it drops down to like 30, and it's got a saddle on the other side where it comes back up and it comes to about 20. So I'm like, okay, I want to get out there early in the morning and I want to pitch from that flat and go down. And I mean, my thought process was like, okay, I think that's going to work all right. But I get out there and then it's pretty windy, and I couldn't quite feel bottom perfect, and it just didn't work. Like, I've just got a million excuses that I didn't catch fish on it, but it's probably not the perfect strategy for that. But I'm excited to use the paddle tail ones with like the proper swim bait jig and get to some weed lines and stuff. So, long story short, I got bit by the eye candy bug and I wanted to try it, but I haven't given it a proper trial yet.
Yeah, and it's not like you're just gonna go and catch them every cast on it. It still has its time and place, but it definitely is nice when it's a swim bait bite or it's a plastic bite, and don't have to worry about throwing a new one on every other fish, and you can just leave it on the whole time, and it works great. So.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I see those videos where they're stretching them out like 3 feet and then it just snaps right back, and how porous that is and how it can absorb that scent properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely make it more efficient for fishing plastics.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. So, all right. Well, Will, thank you so much for your time.
Mike, I got one more thing.
Oh, sorry to cut you off.
I saw a random fun fact that Will sang the national anthem at a Globetrotters game once. Is this true?
Somebody's been creeping on your Instagram profile.
I think there was 11 of us that did it together, but
okay.
But I did get to sing it at the Target Center.
Really?
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
So
it's like a whole group, huh?
Yeah, and we had no music, no nothing. It was all a cappella, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Is this on video anywhere? Can we get like evidence of it?
I've tried looking. I don't know who has the tape, but someone definitely has it. And I haven't been able to find it.
Fair. Are you gonna sing it for us on this?
I don't know if I can. My throat's a little sore.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll let it slide. We'll let it slide. But yeah,
cool.
that's pretty cool. That is a very random fun fact. Like, this guy is just a NWT tournament angler, singing for the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, appreciate the time. Yeah. So I enjoyed hearing that story and kind of your thought process on it. I definitely did not know that you had potentially caught just as many as you actually landed. So that's pretty cool to hear. And yeah, hookup ratio and 4 to 5 foot rollers, not easy.
No. It's crazy when you go from sitting at the bottom of a wave and all of a sudden you look down and you're about 6 feet above and you're about to crash, and you're like, oh gosh, and you just buckle your weight for your knees so they don't buckle. And it was something. I'd get frustrated for a second. I'm like, oh wait, there'll be another one. There he is. Boom. Yeah, okay, I got this one. I think I got this one. But
you had the right mindset anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, just got to stay positive when it comes to that.
Yep.
Awesome.
Super cool. So thank you so much for your time. Congratulations again on one heck of a tournament day. Yeah. Best of luck out there for the rest of the NWT series. Hopefully we can see you at Devil's Lake for that championship event.
Yeah, I hope so too. I appreciate it, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Will.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast. Stay tuned for future segments and visit our social media pages, SCHEELS Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram for daily updates.